Being as it's time, I'd like to call the September 3rd Park and Rec Committee meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda, Ginger? I'd look for a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make that.
Second. Motion is made and second to adopt the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda carried. Look for approval for the August 5th minutes.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion made and second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any public comment to anything on the agenda?
Can I comment when it's up for discussion, or do I comment now?
You can come up now and talk.
Okay.
So if you want to sit at the table there on the mic.
Could you please keep your discussion to 3 minutes or less?
I'm Kay Patterson. I am president of the Twin Rivers Condo Association. I made the request to vacate the easement that's located between our buildings and the river. The request for this is basically, it affects the deeds, the title, and we want to make sure and try and keep our property values up. So we are asking that you will vacate that. I know the gentleman to the east of us is not willing to give an easement to the city. I do not know about the gas station. I know you don't have that one either. We all have bedrooms that are located on the riverside. We have decks and we have docks, and we are very concerned about if there would be a lot of people walking around back there and our liability within that issue. So thank you for your consideration, and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none. Ginger, review the recommended updates to the special events.
Okay. This is based off of, I know that we've been talking a lot about our agreements with different groups and things like that. So I had a lot of conversations with our loss control specialist with CIVMIC. And as we talked about it, the special events policy came up in that conversation. With that being said, the major changes that you'll see, none of it's like of process or anything like that. It's just that insurance level. So as you move through the document, there's no changes as far as fees or anything like that or definitions. But there is changes to the insurance requirements and then the insurance requirements per event. So in the past, we had some things that were based on like, you know, is there alcohol? Is there, you know, things like that? What makes it a risk event? And we had bounce houses in I believe, level 1. And we needed to change that to a level 3. That's a high risk now considered event. So if a group wants to have a bounce house at their event, they would be a level 3 exposure event. Honestly, CIVMIC doesn't even want us to have them on our property. And based on claims that they've gotten, the payouts are just astronomical. And you've heard, I just saw in the news about a bounce castle that there was high winds involved and it lifted it up, and you know that can do a lot of damage or death to the children inside of it. So based on the recommendations, we reconfigured the insurance and requirements based on that. The other updates were just that drones are included now. When the policy was implemented, drones weren't really a thing. Nobody knew, you know, and still we have these special events that do still have these drones coming over groups of people, and that's actually illegal. So there's updates on that in there. Some of that's going to be us having to educate them on that. So just that's another update. And I don't know, is there any questions on the policy updates?
But one of the base changes, Ginger, right, is like on
Yep.
level one, going from $1 million
Yep.
to $2 million.
Right.
That's a big change just because of the lawsuits that are out there now are
Yep.
exceeding that $1 million mark. So the insurance company is saying that for you guys to be protected, you need to increase that because of those lawsuits.
Anybody else have anything on it? I would we're looking for a recommendation to approve the special events policy, Ginger?
Yes.
Okay, I would look for a motion to recommend the updates to special events policy.
I'll make the motion to recommend updates to special.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded to review the recommendations to the updates to the special events policies. Any more discussion on it? Look for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. John. Twin Rivers condo conversation, Chad.
All right. So like Ms. Patterson talked about in the beginning of the public comment, she reached out to Alderperson Fache and requested that the city consider vacating the trail easement on the property behind the Twin River Condo Association property. I'll just bring up a map real quick so everybody can visualize where that is. So we've got North Water Street in the downtown. And if we move to the east, past the gas station here, this is the Twin Rivers condos right here. Going back to my memo, I'll kind of go through this verbatim a little bit, but so I was aware of this request that has come up in the past. So I did some research on the history of this easement because I didn't even know exactly how this was all instilled. So it appears that the city originally owned the property and sold it to John Jekyll like in 1997. A developer's agreement was signed for the project. I have a copy of that developer's agreement in your packet. Parcel was sold to Mr. Jekyll on a land contract, sum of $135,000 plus interest. Looking at the terms of the developer's agreement, the city also provided, paid for environmental phase 1, geotechnical evaluation of the project, provided engineering services for utility right-of-way staking, some other engineering consultations, finance removal of all structures in the parcel. I have no idea, and I didn't really dig into what was there prior to the condos, but there was some reference of removing structures on the parcel, and then transportation of excavated material, providing construction fill for those excavated areas. Looks like the city also provided some engineering for design for storm, sewer, curb, and gutter. The city provided 50% of the curb and gutter at the time, and then also provided utility power. New London Utilities provided that electric power at the site. So in consideration of selling the property and financing the above items, the city retained an easement in the developer's agreement for a public walking trail behind along the river. Again, I put a copy of the developer's agreement in there. The easement's identified in CSMs, and like Mr. Patterson said, the easement is also included in the deeds for the property, and I've attached that in your packet as well. Another point I found out in my research is that in the original developer's agreement, the city was responsible for shoreline maintenance. In 2003, evidently they didn't understand or have a good understanding of what shoreline maintenance was. So in 2003, another agreement was signed between the city, Mr. Jacobs, and then the Twin Rivers condominium to define that maintenance of shoreline was defined as maintenance for erosion control purposes. And at that time, the city paid an additional $2,200 for breaker rock to reduce erosion control that was determined in that easement. In 2016, Twin Rivers Condominium Association requested that the city install a sidewalk in front of the condos and remove the trail easement behind the condos. At that time, engineer Jeff Bodo evaluated the request, concluded it would not really be feasible to place sidewalks in the city's right of way at the location just because of the slope elevations and the driveways going into the buildings at that point in time. I attached Jeff's memo to give you more details about that in the packet. Looks like the topic was discussed at the June 6th, 2016 Board of Public Works meeting. It appears no action was taken at that time. I included those minutes as well. So in summary, appears that the city agreed to sell the property for the development in consideration of the sale on land and some of the additional financial items that the city included. The city retained an easement on the property for a future river trail. So comes down to the question, do we have plans as a city right now to install a trail at the location? The answer is no. We don't have, obviously, like just talked about, the city does not have access behind the gas station to the west, nor the auto repair shop to the east. However, my crystal ball is not working. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future. If you do give this easement up, that's your choice. You more likely won't get it back. And then I'll also point out that the city does own the property. If you have the gas station, the Twin Rivers Condo Association, the car repair shop, and then this parcel right here, that the city owns as parcel that was purchased through stewardship funds. So there is some additional property in that location. But with that, I'll kind of throw it back to the committee. That's the information on the history of the request. Throw it back to you guys. Any questions, I guess?
Have any discussion about it? Any pros or cons? Or-
I know if I owned the condos, I wouldn't want a walkway next to the river in my backyard. And I know the guy that owns the lot next to him, where he's got a shop in there, he won't give it up. So trying to put one just past the condos would be useless for the city. I think we should just revert it back to the condos or figure out a price on it, let them buy it back and be done with it.
At one meeting, we had talked about, and I'm thinking it's not in conjunction with this property in any way, shape, or form. We had talked about a swimming spot. I believe it was much further down and possibly.
Yep, that was in that property that was this purchase with stewardship funds.
It
right
is
there.
in that property.
Yep.
Okay,
That's probably an idea that's never gonna happen.
No,
The
'cause
swimming
I
area
don't think
there.
the city wants the responsibility to put a swimming hole in the river.
Is there any electrical or in there that we need an easement to take care of?
To my understanding, the easement is a trail easement, not a utility easement.
All the utilities are out front.
I guess I don't see the need to give up something that was part of the agreement when that was sold. I don't know why,
Yeah,
20
I
years
wouldn't just
later.
give it away, but
why should we just give it away or get rid of it? I mean, if it's there, it's not costing us nothing and you might want a trail there someday. It's nice to have if you need it.
I don't know where you would go with a trail to the bridge at a gas station. I don't know how you,
There's not enough.
There's nothing. I don't know, I don't see a lot of advantage to the city, and I agree with Bernie. If I had some property, I wouldn't want a public trail behind my business, but when you bought it, that was part of the agreement. But I know things change, but I don't know.
part of the agreement was to have that trail, and I'm sure in 2003, the city gave up an awful lot in this developers agreement to have that trail back there. Just to give it back to them is not right. I agree, I would not want it back there, I would not want a trail in my backyard, I 100% agree, but something has to, I mean, we just paid, well, not just, but paid $2,200 for the rock, what does the city get back?
Do we want to allow some comment?
Up to the chairman.
Is it possible? to make one more
I'm fine with,
Yeah.
everybody all fine, she gives some comments?
I understand how this all came about, and that property was started to be developed in 1997. And if you would look at the tax money that you have received from our condos since that time, I think you have more than gotten back any expense that you've paid. We pay, I pay close to $4,000 a year in taxes.
With all due respect, that's what I pay as well for my house in town. So, I mean, and I'm not asking for additional properties. So,
John?
Bob, my question is there gonna be any access between those condos and the river for any fishermen that might wanna fish off the shore there? Cause currently there's nothing for them to get in there with.
There's no way unless you walk down by the gas station. Because I don't
Yeah,
know of the property to the east of them is gonna give you permission to walk down on their property. I don't know that answer. You know, that's Hebner, I think, that owns the boat landing there. I don't know if he's gonna give anybody permission to walk down there and fish. That I don't know. And otherwise, the only other place to access it would be the gas station.
Isn't there room between that last condo
yeah,
and
but
he?
that's private property.
Yeah, I know it is.
We'd
That's why I
have to
said, I
have
don't know if
some
anybody's gonna give you
agreement.
permission. No, I don't think there's any room, is there? Ginger, is there any room between the gas station and the condo?
I don't know. I haven't been there before. I've never been.
I would think it would be the type of easement that is like a road. Where just because a road goes through somebody's property, I don't think that you can just walk off of the road. Start, unless
for a
it's
walking
specific,
trail.
yeah.
To,
Now, if
What I think-
also, I'd like to say, if it's just in front of those condos, it's not going to be up on the property on the river side of the automobile repair business.
so to go back to Jim's first question, looking at the developers agreement, and I'd have to research this more. But it indicates it's just talking about a walking trail. So I haven't noticed any information that specifically is addressing, going along shoreline fishing. It looks like the intent at that time was just to have a walking trail.
My thoughts on it were back in 2016. I don't believe I was on the council, but I remember being at that meeting. The thought then was, what if someday the trail is gonna be put out to Mosquito Hill, which is something everyone would like, but a couple things there were that bridge on S, we know that's gonna get replaced. Will they even put a walking? Will they put room enough to walk on that bridge when they replace it? There's no room on really on the other side, on the Embarrass River side, to do a trail, which would be nice. And then you got the overpass there, which would be a real challenge. Yeah, to run a trail through. However, since that, the city was able to successfully bridge this trail out here. So that would be the most viable way to Mosquito Hill would be the trail we just completed this last year along Highway S. And so back in 2016, I would have said, I don't think I'd give up that trail easement. But as it is right now, I don't think it's no different than the boat landing by Harry Wolfgram and Leonard Puffy that we gave back to them. I don't even think we charged them for it. But, or some property right up to the railroad here, we gave back to the property owners to get it back on the tax rolls, but this is an easement. So it's not like we'd be gaining
There's no
real
taxes.
estate, yeah, no. But that's my thoughts on it. I thought of it in 2016. I would have never agreed to it, but in today's reality, I've talked to Sheba, the property owner at the gas station. He doesn't even want, he don't even have a dock because he don't even want really people letting snowmobiles come up to his pumps is about the max for him and talking with him. And then Jeff absolutely
doesn't want anything behind there because he utilizes that part of his property, but, that's my thoughts on it, I guess. If it helps them, every time one of those condos sells or there's a transaction, I guess, do we benefit as a city? Yeah. I'm not the kind of person to really want to give up an easement, but I don't see that ever really amounting to anything.
I'll throw it out there too with Dave's comment, what's in it, you know, transaction for the city. Like I stated in my research, there is some provisions in here that the city's obligated for, like, example, the shoreline, you know, maintenance. You know, that might be a negotiation piece. If they want to remove the easement, then maybe we get out of any future maintenance on the shoreline and then 100% your property. I have to go through this developers agreement and see what else is in here to see if there's other stuff that the city's obligated over time. But
Yeah, we shouldn't be obligated for anything if we give up the easement. I mean, we don't do it for anybody else on the river. We don't fix their shoreline.
Yeah, I would think if we give up the easement, that any of the things in the agreement would be null and void.
Right, then the condos are responsible for the river.
Correct.
I would think that.
That's what the city would get out of it,
And I
right?
don't think, as long as I can remember, I don't think the city ever put any breaker on the river bank.
There was a year in there, it said.
yeah, whatever year that was in there that I found in that agreement.
Yeah, when they first
I think-
done it, but they said if there's any maintenance, they spent 200 or 2,200 bucks, don't they?
Yep.
Yeah, right there.
2000.
2003, they stuck that money into it.
It's 21 years ago, Bernie. That's a long time.
It kind of feels to me like we need more information regarding what the developers agreement was about. What would it be our liability? What is our liability versus what we would be giving up? And then where exactly the finances fall. I'm kind of the opinion that just vacating it is not appropriate. So what would be appropriate?
So you mentioned where the finances fall. What, can you define what you're,
Like who would be responsible for what? I mean, how much of a financial obligation has it been for us versus, you know, having it on the tax rolls kind of stuff? What does that, how does that balance out?
you know, it's kind of hard to say, you know, every property owner has paid for taxes over the years, but that's paid for the services, all the services,
Right.
not just for paying back what the city, you know, put in at that point in time. So we got to kind of keep that, because you've all paid, you know, over time for everything the city provides. But to your point, Belinda, I mean, I can go through here to see if there's any other obligations of the city. I didn't specifically look for that, to see whatever obligations are in here. And I can report back on that if that's what you guys
Yeah,
would like
I
to do.
kind of feel like it would, to do anything right now and not really know, wouldn't be prudent. That's just my opinion.
In 2016, they didn't take action on it, so they must have thought at that point that it was viable to keep it.
Yeah, if you looked at the minutes, there wasn't much there. They kind of talked about that. They talked.
I was on council, so was Mike on council at the time. And
2016,
Yeah.
when they came to us, what they wanted us to give up the easement and put a sidewalk in the front,
front.
on the road front. That was checked into. You could not put a sidewalk in there. It should be driveways without making their driveways next to impossible to come out. And that's why we said at that time, we really have no plans of doing a trail in there. But we just tabled it because there, at that time was brought up, will you put a sidewalk in the front?
So if we keep the easement, would we be liable to keep up with the shoreline?
As of today, what I'm reading is that
Yeah.
we have the easement, but we are responsible. Let's see, it says the city will be solely responsible for river shoreline maintenance and walkway construction and maintenance. Well, we don't have the walkway in there, so we don't have that maintenance right now. But if you see here, I've also included the updated agreement. That's this part. Talks about in 2003. The city of New London will order and pay for $2,200 of breaker rock. Mr. Jankel and the homeowners association will make arrangements to place the rock at the high water mark. And it is mutually agreed upon that the words maintenance of the shoreline as used in developers assistance agreement means maintenance for erosion control purposes. So that's what you have in place today. So right now, the city is responsible for this agreement for maintenance for erosion control purposes behind those condos.
About that liability. So it would benefit the city in that aspect.
So in other words, if
I have
ice,
one more thing to ask on that. If we do agree or vote to do what the condos want over there, how is going to affect anybody else that has property along the river in the future? If they want to do something like that?
We have trails on all.
And
around.
you're establishing, a policy for the city. Not just for those 5 condos.
Well, we've done individual ones for the, like was brought up before about just when we abandoned Beacon Avenue. We did those on a special as need basis, when we gave the property to Wolf Graham and to Puffy on one side. So we've done that in other aspects of town, all the way, you go all the way down Wolf River Avenue. All those streets that dead end in, we give that to the people that are on each side of it. So it's not been nothing that's unusual, really.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that we have everybody have that opportunity, okay? If we're gonna do it for just those, somebody else wants it, I guess we'd be stuck with doing that too.
I think it's on a case by case basis.
Yeah, that's
Depending on what you got going on.
My question would be, when we start talking this, we've got a trail behind SV Swiderski's. Are they gonna come in 2 years and ask for that?
That trail is on our property. We own that and it was paid through by stewardship. So that's not an easement, that's a little bit different.
What
The
about-
easements that we have right now, the waters.
The waters, I
and
was
a couple sections
thinking,
over
and
there.
yeah, just the section right here.
So what happens, if they come to us and say, oh, we want that trail vacated because of our
That's not a
Well,
trail
it's
though.
existing trail,
existing trail, but what happens if they say they want it vacated?
and they'd have to
You know what I mean? I don't know.
pull up the trail, I guess.
I
that's
mean,
part of the
It's
stewardship.
kind of different because that's already got a trail. This has
Yeah.
been 25 years of maybe
It
having
still
one.
doesn't have one.
And then we can't get it because there's no way Heaper's gonna allow us to go across there. He's got a landing there. He is not gonna let the city go across there.
Right, this, where we're talking, that's landlocked.
I get
No
it.
way you're
I get
ever
it.
gonna get a trailer.
Well, how long has it been though? And so say in 20, 30 years, what if he's not there anymore?
Right,
What if
somebody else,
he dies and goes and sells it to some Joe Schmo that wants a trail?
not really costs us nothing.
You don't know, yeah.
Shive has always got a station up for sale.
If I'm the city attorney and I'm looking at property at the effluent of Two Rivers in today's weather situations, I'm gonna get rid of that liability.
Oh, I think we should take a look at this agreement.
As long as we can get rid of everything that we have to pay for.
Yeah.
I'm in 100% agreement with you, John, but I'm not gonna give that up and then 5 years down the road, they go back to a developer's agreement from 97, says you're responsible for the shoreline. You know what I'm saying? This is the whole new agreement.
No, they have to take their responsibility.
One piece of ice flips up on
I know.
that tree that's hung up on the board. And it'll be like watching TV at night when the house is overhanging the cliff. That could happen like tomorrow. I don't want that liability for something that might happen and might not happen, but. I mean, that's a hypothetical. It's probably not fair to bring it up, but there's a lot of liability there. For what in return, in my opinion.
So I guess what I'm hearing is we're gonna get more information on the agreement to see whether we're liable? It doesn't sound like we will be. We give up the property. Is that what I'm hearing? We
We want to take a whole new agreement is what it's gonna take.
Right,
It's-
is that-
right. Can't just give it up right here. and
You
vote to
wouldn't
give it
have
up.
an agreement if you give up the easement, and it's their property now. There's no easement, there's no
Right.
agreement. It's their
Well,
property.
That's
No,
not
the
exactly
agreement's still
true.
there. The developer's agreement's there. You're just taking out the one term of the easement part of it out of the developer's agreement.
Which means they have to re-sign the agreement because you're changing.
We
the
would have to
agreement.
sign a new agreement. So hearing what you guys are talking about, just kind of speed this a little bit. I can do some research, talk to the city attorney, see what other liabilities in here in this developer's agreement or any other easements that are out there, find that out. I would suggest that I make contact with the,
Owner.
the condo association and see what they're willing to negotiate. Then I bring that information back to you guys for future discussion. How's that?
Perfect.
That sounds all right.
All right.
Any more discussion on it?
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay. That'll probably be on next month's agenda.
Okay. Do you know when you're meeting next month?
October 1st,
October 1st?
Yep.
Thank you.
5:15 here.
Ginger, the Park and Rec Committee budget presentation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Give me a second.
Sure.
All yours.
All right. So I'm just gonna work through this quick, but the very last page is what I'd like to stay on a lot of. What we're finding, so in the rec department, you'll see there's a larger percentage of increase. This is due to increasing programming and enrollments in adult leagues. Morgan has seen in softball primarily an increase in her leagues where she's gonna need to add another diamond to the game. So when you're running 2 diamonds, you're doubling your budget for that, which is quite a large increase. So that really bumped this line item up. What I don't like, she's got 2 different budgets to work with. She's got the rec budget and then the Washington Center gym. And so what she's did is kind of scooch around her programming so that a lot of it's coming back into recreation and moving out of the Washington Center. But we'll see that at the end. So this budget does include the office staff, including myself, the recreation supervisor, and then, half of the office staff. We cut Chris and then our part-time staff into and share with the Department of Public Works. And then it also includes youth and adult programming. The next one I'm gonna go over is the Parks Department budget. There's a small increase there. They're all gonna get a 3% raise. And that's why it's looks kind of goofy, but it's a smaller increase because we have a full-time staff that is going from family. We used to budget for a family for that position and he's going down to a single. Actually, I think he's doing a payout. So that significantly decreases the budget there. So I'm doing an increase in topsoil and sand fill. And then another thing that I didn't factor into this is because it's not passed yet, but we're gonna see increases, and I'll present that portion when we talk about the call-in and standby policy, but you'll see a possible increase in wages there. Currently, the parks are not on a standby list, and the new policy could potentially bring them into that list.
And I'll just point out that, did you mention the 3% for wage increases? That's what's budgeted right now.
Right.
Which obviously you guys have to determine moving forward. But that's what we're seeing from trending from other municipalities, what people are trying to budget right now is about 3%. So that's what we're budgeting, but obviously, once we put the whole budget together and you guys see it at the end, you guys will determine if that's the route we take, so.
At the pool, with the aquatic and fitness center and the rec department, you see these small increases because we're seeing a trend in seasonal staff where they're not staying long. And a major portion of these budgets is that seasonal staff wage. maybe 1 or 2 years. In the past, when I was recreation supervisor, we were doing, I was having kids stay sometimes 5 to 8 years from when they were 15 years old to when they were almost 20, 21. And you're not seeing that anymore. Those kids get their start here maybe, but then they go to be frank, higher paid things, and they drive into the valley and things like that. Or it's just something that I don't know, they're jumping around a lot. So, the last seasonal wage study, we did implement a $1 raise if they stayed for 3 years. We have not given as many raises as I thought that would keep people at. So it's just gonna keep our budget down, honestly. I guess I can see, I told Judy why these huge companies and corporations try to cut that fat at the top. And it breaks my heart when I say it like that, but I do see it here with these seasonal kids too. Whereas in the past we just are losing a kid that I hired back a long time ago. And this is the effect of that. Same thing, exact same thing here with the senior transit. We have a gentleman that's worked for us for 15 years, and he'll be leaving, and this is the decrease in budget that you'll see because of that. It's a very small budget, so it's just the wages and operations for the van. At the Washington Center, I found that we were budgeting 1,700 hours for some reason for the senior program supervisor. She's only allowed 12,000 a year to keep herself out of state retirement. And I think that in the past, we used to offer that to Kim Ebert when she was running the county and the city on the same site. We're no longer doing that because Kim's retired. So I think that just did not get taken out of there. It's not a big deal here though. So I did do some changes there, adding to dues and subscriptions. Those have all went up for any association that you belong to now. And then some special programming increases. This is where you see that difference in programming staff for the rec, where it was cutting to things happening in the Washington Center gym. With that, the acquisition of acquiring the North Room, we are taking that out of our rec budget and putting it in, those classes are going down to the North Room. We're seeing a lot more need for gym rental. And so we can bring in revenue by doing that a little bit better. It'll be really interesting to see. We've been crunching numbers just for our end of the year report to see how much our revenue has brought in the last couple of years for gym rentals, because there isn't a time that place isn't completely booked, and we make more money honestly on rentals than we do on programming. So this is just what I wanted to look at so that you can see that gym and rec kind of evens itself out. And then just keeping an even keel with everything was our goal this year. And I think that we've hit that. Just trying to stay steady with everybody, doing some small increases. The senior bus is just a huge cut because of that 15-year veteran leaving. We did find a replacement for him, so that's grateful, and she's starting this week. Is there any questions? I know I flew by it, but I'm just completely stuffed up and can't even. And Judy and I, we'll look at this more when it comes to that standby and call in, because I'm also proposing that the pool supervisor and the recreation supervisor are included in that policy, which they never were for call-in pay. From the numbers that I've seen, it's not a huge increase in their wages either. They're averaging about 30 to 40 call-ins, so that'd be, the hour plus the two, call-in hours paid. So I'll touch more on that when we do actually talk about that policy at finance and personnel.
Anybody have any questions? You're not looking for any action on this. This is just,
Nope, because it'll all get put together. Judy will start doing her magic and putting the budget number together, and then the overall budget will be presented to the committee and council in the future. So this is just feedback and option or available.
doing a good job, Ginger.
Questions. So
Doing a good job the way it looks.
Well, yeah, we're trying. It's not what I'd like, but whatever.
Any updates and reports?
I just have a quick update. Brad Werner and I will be presenting down at Horicon for the boat launch overflow lot project, for the, recreational boating fund grant. We did get some unfortunate news that based on the number of applications and rankings, we're not going to be able to get the entire amount asked at this meeting. She said that we would more than likely get, she said there's about 70 to 75,000 in the pool. So we do not have to accept that. And we can just wait until February. There'll be a whole nother pot of money from the Great Lakes Fund. They don't use all that money, and then it trickles down to the inland lakes and streams funds, and that would be our fund that we're applying for. And so she said, if we can, hold off. She actually said, we don't even have, she's like, you guys don't have, you can pull your application if you want, but it looks good to go down there and show them, introduce the project to them, let them know that you're working, what you're working on. And then she said, we have a much better chance of going in February and getting the full amount requested, after learning how much is brought back through to the Great Lakes Fund. She said that we should know how much is in that fund by the end of October. So hopefully they don't spend a lot of money out there in the big lakes, but they typically do not, apparently, which surprised me. But she did mention that if we can come with a shovel-ready project, they like that better. So Brad and I will be working on putting together a potential for that. And he said that we could probably, they wouldn't bill us until we got the actual money for it, for those plans and specs. So other than that, we're preparing for winter spring activity guide. I've been working hard with April to get ready for the Fall Fest for next weekend, well, a couple weekends. We interviewed 3 candidates for the part-time customer service team member. I think that we've narrowed it down to a candidate. I'm working on doing some background checks and reference checks with that, and then I'd love to have her start as soon as possible, obviously. Just to mention, in the staff recognition, I want to thank Mike Frieden for his 15 years with the senior band. And then Morgan will be coming on to her 6th year with the city. So that's always a nice to have her in that recreation programming position. It's nice to have. She's getting a little bit of experience under her, so that's awesome. And that's it for me.
Future agenda items?
So Chad will come with his twin
condos.
Twin River condos. I would like to get, I'm working on the, urban forestry grant. So I'll probably have a proclamation for that, but I included that in last month, so we'll just add it on. I know we had talked about a parks tour, but I don't know if we're gonna have time. I
Um,
could see.
Can I get something added? One of the guys down by me says, the city praises the walking trails we got, especially along the river.
Yeah.
And you look at it and there's weeds and trees and it looks terrible. And the river is what promotes New London. And you walk from the bridge past Johnny's and it's just, it's all brush and weeds.
Mhm.
And it looks terrible.
It's more of an operating thing, not necessarily a agenda item, but I can definitely look at it. Is that our responsibility, like, to do the,
The maintenance of the,
from the bridge to John's?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep. those are our easements.
I don't know if our new staff knew that, so maybe that's what Luke should, yeah. So we can do pesticides. So we have to go in there and weed whack.
It was brought up last year, I brought that
Yep.
up last year, but they trimmed some of it.
They
up.
did,
Try
yeah,
to come back again.
yeah, the weeds are out of control this summer with the amount of rain that we've got.
There should be a pesticide you can use on that, that would be water friendly.
Yeah, I'd have to ask Connor, he's our weed guy.
He's got a
Okay.
certification, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the difference. We used to have somebody certified that would go
yeah, he is, he's through the,
or whatever. I don't know. I know that people walk pets there and you can't just put poison down.
yeah,
They used to. And that's why people say, oh, it used to look like that.
Well, the dogs are dead along.
yeah.
Okay, review our next meeting date, Tuesday, October 1st. Anybody got anything else? I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded.